Our story begins just after the Last Supper with the disciples, when Jesus had blessed the bread and the cup. After they sang a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. And then Jesus told them,
"Before this night is over, you're all going to fall to pieces over what's going to happen to me." There's a scripture that says, "I'll strike the shepherd, scatter all of the sheep. But after I'm raised again, I, your shepherd, will go ahead of you, leading the way to Galilee."
Even if everyone else falls to pieces on account of you, I won't.
Don't be so sure. This very night, before the rooster crows up the dawn, he'll deny me 3 times.
Even if I have to die with you, I will never, ever deny you.
I also would never deny
no,
you.
I would
Jesus,
never
how can
deny
you even
you.
say these
Why
things?
would
Don't
you
talk
say
about
said
this.
the
Never.
same
You would never
thing.
do that. You would never leave you.
Then Jesus went with them to a garden called Gethsemane.
Can you stay here while I go over there and pray?
And taking along Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, he plunged into an agonizing sorrow.
This sorrow is crushing my life out. Stay here. Keep vigil with me.
Going a little farther ahead, he fell on his face, praying.
My Father, if there is any other way, get me out of this. But not what I want. You, what do you want?
When he returned to the disciples, he found them sound asleep.
Peter, can't you stay awake with me for even a single hour? Stay alert. Be in prayer so that you don't fall into temptation when you're so close to danger. There's a part of you that is ready for anything in God. And there's another part of you that's as lazy as an old dog sleeping before the fire.
He left them a second time. Again he prayed,
My Father, if there is any other way than to drink this cup all the way to its dregs. But I am ready. Have it your way.
When he came back, he again found them asleep. They simply could not keep their eyes open. This time, he let them sleep on and went back a third time to pray. Going over the same ground one last time, when he came back the next time, he said,
Going to sleep on and make a night of it? My time is up. The Son of Man is going to be handed over to the hands of sinners. Get up. Let's go. My betrayer is here.
The words were barely out of his mouth when Judas, one from the 12, showed up, and with him a gang from the high priests and religious leaders, brandishing swords and clubs. The betrayer had worked out a sign with them.
The one that I kissed, that's the one.
Seize him.
He went straight to Jesus. He greeted him
How are you, Rabbi?
and kissed him.
Friend, why the charade?
Then they came on him, grabbed him, roughed him up. One of those with Jesus pulled his sword and, taking a swing at the chief priest's servant, cut off his ear.
Put away your sword. All those who use swords are destroyed by swords. Don't you realize that I am able right now to call on my Father? And 12 companies of battle-ready fighting angels would be here in a moment's notice. But if I did that, how would the scriptures be fulfilled that say that this is the way it has to be?
Then Jesus addressed the mob.
What is this? Coming after me with swords and clubs as if I'm some sort of common criminal. Every day I have been in the temple teaching, and you haven't lifted a hand against me. Now you have done this to fulfill what was written in the prophetic writings.
And all the disciples cut and ran. The gang that had seized Jesus led him before Caiaphas, the chief priest, where the religious scholars and leaders had assembled. Peter followed at a safe distance until they got to the chief priest's courtyard. And then he slipped in and mingled with the servants, watching to see how things would turn out. The high priests, conspiring with the Jewish council, tried to cook up charges against Jesus in order to sentence him to death. But even though many stepped up, making one false accusation after another, nothing was believable. Finally, two people came forward with this.
I can tear this temple down and rebuild it in 3 days.
Caiaphas said,
I command you by the authority of the living God to say if you are the Messiah, the Son of God.
You yourself said it. And that's not all. Soon you'll see it for yourself. Son of Man, seated at the right hand of the Mighty One, coming in the clouds of heaven.
At that, the chief priest lost his temper and ripped his robes.
He blasphemed! Why do we even need any more people to accuse him? He blasphemed! You all heard him blaspheme! Are you going to stand for this type of blasphemy?
They all said,
Death!
Yes,
Death!
that
Put him
seals
to
his
death!
death.
That's what he
Death,
deserves.
right
Put
there.
him to
We will
death.
get
That's
death.
Jesus.
and then they spit in his face and banged him around. They jeered as they slapped him.
Prophesy, Messiah.
Yeah, who hit you that time?
At that time, Peter was sitting out in the courtyard. The servant girl came up to him
You were with Jesus, the Galilean.
in front of everyone. He denied it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
As he moved over toward the gate, someone else said to the people there,
Hey, this guy, he was with Jesus, the Nazarene.
again, he denied it, salting his denial with an oath.
I have never laid eyes on that man.
Shortly after that, some bystanders approached Peter.
You've got to be one of them.
Your accent gives you away.
Then he got really nervous and swore.
I don't know the man.
Just then a rooster crowed, and Peter remembered what Jesus had said.
Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times.
He went out and cried and cried and cried. In the first light of dawn, all the high priests and religious leaders met and put their finishing touches on the plot to kill Jesus. And then they tied him up and they paraded him to Pilate, the governor. Jesus was placed before the governor, who questioned him.
Are you the king of the Jews?
If they say so.
But when the accusations rained down hot and heavy from the high priests and religious leaders, he said nothing.
Do you hear that long list of accusations? Don't you want to say anything?
Jesus kept silence. Not a word from his mouth. The governor was impressed, really impressed. It was an old custom during the feast for the governor to pardon a single prisoner named by the crowd. At the time, they had the infamous Jesus Barabbas in prison. With the crowd before him, Pilate said,
Who of these 2 do you want me to pardon? Jesus Barabbas or Jesus the so-called Christ?
He knew it was through sheer spite that they turned Jesus over to him. While the court was still in session, Pilate's wife sent him a message.
Don't get mixed up in judging this noble man. I've just been through a long and troubled night because of a dream about him.
Meanwhile, the high priests and religious leaders had talked the crowd into asking for the pardon of Barabbas and the execution of Jesus.
Which of these 2 do you want me to pardon?
Barabbas! Give us Barabbas!
Then what do I do with Jesus the so-called Christ?
Nail him to a cross! Crucify him!
But for what crime?
Just crucify him! Crucify him! He blasphemed! Crucify him!
When Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere and that a riot was imminent, he took a basin of water and washed his hands in full sight of the crowd.
I'm washing my hands of responsibility for this man. And from now on, he's your responsibility. You're the judge and jury.
We'll take the blame. We and our children after us.
And then he pardoned Barabbas. But he had Jesus whipped and then handed over for crucifixion. The soldiers assigned to the governor took Jesus into the governor's palace. They got the entire brigade together for some fun. They stripped him. They dressed him in a red toga.
Here you go.
They plaited a crown from the branches of a thorn bush and set it on his head. They put a stick in his right hand for a scepter. And then they knelt before him, mocking reverence. Bravo, King of the Jews. Bravo. And then they spit on him, hit him on the head with a stick. And when they had their fun, they took off the toga and they put his own clothes back on him. And then they proceeded out to the crucifixion. Along the way, they came upon a man from Cyrene named Simon and made him carry Jesus' cross. Arriving at Golgotha, the place they call Skull Hill, they offered him a mild painkiller, a mixture of wine and myrrh. But when he tasted it, he wouldn't drink it. After they had finished nailing him to the cross, they were waiting for him to die. They whiled away their time, throwing dice for his clothes. Above his head, they had posted the criminal charges against him. This is Jesus, the King of the Jews.
Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they laid him in the tomb?
When they got to the place called Skull Hill, they crucified him, along with the criminals, one on his right, the other on his left.
Father, Forgive them. They don't know what they're doing.
Dividing up his clothes, they threw dice for them. The people stood there, staring at Jesus. The ringleaders made faces, taunting.
He saved the others. Let's see him save himself.
The Messiah of God, right?
Yeah.
The soldiers also came up and poked fun at him, making a game of it.
Cheers.
They toasted him with sour wine.
Here's to
Yeah. Oh, so you're the king of the Jews, huh? Why don't you save yourself?
Printed over him was a sign. This is the King of the Jews.
You're the king of the Jews.
One of the criminals, hanging alongside him, cursed him.
Some Messiah you are. Save yourself. Save us.
But the other one made him shut up.
Have you no fear of God? You're getting the same as he is. We deserve this. He does not. He did nothing to deserve this. Jesus, please. Please remember me when you enter your kingdom.
Don't worry. I will. Today, you will join me in paradise.
By now it was noon, and the whole earth became dark. The darkness lasting 3 hours. Total blackout. The temple curtain tore right down the middle.
Father, I place my life in your hands.
And then he breathed his last.